Okay, the point of that video really was to point out to you that, well, they did a great pitch, which they did. You didn't see it, but they did a good pitch for their product. But then they got on to the numbers, and they didn't have a clue about the numbers. And then they got on to their market, and they didn't have a very good idea of the market and how to reach that market. So, but they did get an investment in the end. So only one dragon was willing to invest with them. The others gave them a complete and utter roasting because they didn't understand the fundamentals of the business. So I don't know how they've got on since then, but so we'll move on. So sales too important to be left to chance. Where's my machine for? So why the title? In my experience, working with Welsh businesses in recent years, there's all sorts of reasons why this presentation came about. Usually because sales tends to be a bit of a Cinderella profession, a bit of a something that people don't focus on, which is quite bizarre really when you think about what a business is trying to do. And people don't think too much about selling. They think it's a black art. They don't think they can forecast their business. They think that business comes in and there's no real rhyme or reason to it. Well, actually there is. I mean, business and selling and lots of things in business is all about process. And there's good and bad ways to achieve things. So this is just the outline of the presentation. We were going to critique that video, but we can't. I'm going to pose a number of things for you to think about. And hopefully I'll answer some of those questions during the presentation, or maybe you will answer some of those questions. But, it's a great point, isn't it? The fluffy stuff, the things that we all like doing. But going and meeting customers, forcing your way in to get in front of the right people and presenting a proposition which they're going to like and will lead to them buying stuff from you. So this is the presentation outline. Some food for thought. Talk about a little bit about definitions, because I hear a lot about people talking about business development, marketing, sales. They're all different. They're not the same thing, but people think they are. The process of selling, there is a process. What the common challenges are, some methodologies that you might want to adopt depending on what it is you're selling and to what market you're selling to. I want to get some feedback for you. I want to try and make this interactive. I've got some props. I've got some prizes. I'll be looking for someone to step up and maybe do a role play if anybody's feeling they want to do that or they're feeling brave. Otherwise, it's going to have to be Peter. And then I'll maybe talk about who would be good at this selling lark, because there are some businesses that have tried to hire salespeople and it's put them out of business. So how do you identify the right person if you're going to hire salespeople? What kind of qualities are you looking for? And then we'll talk about some best practice, at least my view of best practice. So just to build on what was said earlier, I think, in the plenary session, this is something Terry Matthews said when he opened the Lackery Foundation in Newport, and I absolutely agree with it. I'm sure Peter does as well. Tell me if you don't, Peter. I don't. The three most important things in business is sales. Sales growth and making money, making a profit. And, Terry and all his businesses, I'm sure this has been his mantra. And it's absolutely true. You have to go out and you have to get customers. Not just any customers, getting the right customers is also important. The quality of business is important. And trust. I mean, salespeople are not there to mislead customers. At least they do, they'll soon be found out. So trust is really important. It is probably the most important. It's the least tangible. It's difficult to get, but it's easiest to lose. And buying decisions, and if you observe your own buying behavior, is largely based on emotion. We use logic to try and justify what we've done, but there's a lot of emotion. And that's why brands are so important in business, is the brand equals trust. We all know when we go to McDonald's what we're going to get. It's not the best food in the world, but it's consistent. Well, kids think it's the best food in the world, but... So there are many types of ways to sell. I mean, if you're selling a tangible, it does what it says on the tin kind of product, it's a different way of selling. If you're selling something that's technical and that can be touched and felt and tested that it does what it's supposed to do, that's different. If you're selling something that's intangible, and most of my career has been selling intangible products and services, that's really about the vision that you're trying to paint for a customer of how his business could be if he invests in your product and service. And it's really about building trust because it's intangible. Until they've bought it and installed it, they're not sure whether it's going to work and deliver the benefits that you've said. They can do all the due diligence they like, but they'll never really know until they've committed. And then if you're selling a commodity, it's obviously a lot about price. So, some red flags, and hopefully this won't get you too nervous, but these are the things that I see which really scare me in businesses. So, you have to have someone responsible for the revenues that your company is generating. There's no point in saying everybody's responsible, because if everybody is, nobody is. Our business is too complex to forecast. Rubbish. Any business, no matter how complex, you should be able to forecast your business going forward. Otherwise, how do you plan for growth? We sell to whoever's interested. No, you don't. You should be selling to people that you've profiled as being the best type of customer for your product and service. Quality is more important than quantity. We have to follow the customer's buying process. No, you don't. We rely on networking to find customers. Yes, possibly, but it's not the be-all and end-all. It's one way of identifying customers and building relationship. It's not about price. Websites are great, but everybody's got one. If yours is marginally better than someone else's, is that going to translate into more sales? Probably not. Trade shows, exhibitions, and so on. So these are the things that, if you're saying those things or thinking those things, I think you should be worried, because it's probably not a good thing to do. Sales impact. I mean, it's interesting how sales is not up there with all the other professions that are held in high regard. When you think of the impact sales excellence can have on your business, so it's not peripheral. So if you're selling your stuff, then it means the difference between you making a profit or making a loss, whether you're good at selling or not. Whether your company's growing or declining, whether you're having to go out and borrow money, or whether you can fund what you do out of cash. And it's all about success and failure. So selling should be, and Peter will tell you, I think, I'm not putting words in your mouth here, Peter, but in the US, it's all about this. This is what they build their business on, sales excellence. The other stuff is important, but nothing's more important, because if you're not selling stuff, then your business is in decline. So, just some things to think about, and in your own businesses, and I'm not going to answer this because I can't answer it for everybody, but think about how much of your sales activity is proactive versus reactive. In a complete startup, it has to be all proactive, otherwise the phone is unlikely to ring. You'd love it to. Our product, our service is so great, the phones are going to be red hot. It doesn't happen. What are the three top qualities of a salesman? The three things that, if you're going to hire someone, you should be looking for. I'm not asking, that's a question which we'll try and answer later on. If you've got a sales force and they go and meet a customer, if you could ask them one question, only one question following that meeting, what would that question be to get the information that you need? Because salespeople are great at coming out of a meeting and saying, well, I said this and he said that, and it's all meaningless. There's one question you can ask which will get the information that you need. What's the core role of a salesperson? No matter what you're selling, who you're selling to, what is the core role? How can you describe that? I can do it in 2 words. But think about, what is it? The core of that person's role. What is it that he does that he has to be exceptional at? When does the sales cycle start? I hear a lot of people saying, well, it takes about 6 months to sell our stuff, Well, when does a sales cycle start? We all know when it finishes, when we get that order, or we get the money in the bank, actually. But when does it start? And here's the role play. A footwear product, i.e. these, is on sale. Just remember this, because I'm going to ask someone to, Peter, just remember this, okay? You read it? Is on sale for £12. The recommended retail price is £24. An additional promotion allows 2, hence I've got 2 of these, to be purchased for £20. How would you present this offer in a high-impact way to maximize sales? And just to give you an example, the buy one, get one free. Why do they position it as buy one, get one free, not buy 2 and get 50% discount? You can describe that in different ways. So in this proposition, think about, I'm the person you're selling to. If you had to step up and sell me these 2 pair of boots, how would you position that in a high-impact way where I'd be more likely to say, yeah, I'll have a pair. I'll have 2 pairs, actually. Just think about it. There's only one person who ever got this right, and they've probably done this presentation 5 or 6 times, I guess. And one of the things that I'm not going to cover in this, because it's probably a couple-of-day workshop in its own right. How would you begin to sell your software or your technology or your product or your service to a large corporation without any prior relationships or any knowledge even of a large corporation? And I think this is relevant because, as Julie said this morning, this David and Goliath paradigm that she described, you know, if you're the David, how do you, this would be really important. How do you get to engage with large corporates where your technology could be really important to them? So there's the chance. Is anybody willing to have a go at this role play now, or anybody feeling brave enough? You have a go? Come on in. Right. I'm the customer, right? Or the potential customer. Right. I'm interested in buying a pair of these boots.
Depends. What's the boots good for?
Well, I'm just want a pair to knock around the garden.
I don't get it. No. Can you explain again what they're trying to get from me?
Sure.
Yeah.
I want you to sell me these boots.
Oh, right then. Okay, let's go.
Using the numbers up there. So it's
right then. Okay.
this is a fairly commodity product, right?
Yeah,
so price is probably the focus, right? So I've tried to give you some indication of. You can sit down and think about it and have another go later.
What I think I will do, because for me it's not very interesting. Like, I think buy one get one free is the best option for me. I always go for that. But I will go instead of get 2 for 20, say you have like 30% discount, in 20% discount in each of these ones if you buy 2.
Okay.
That will be my approach.
Okay.
Going as percentage you take off.
Get a prize.
Thank you.
Come on in, Peter. Right. That I mean, it is one way of presenting it, but it didn't hit me, right? I get 20% discount off each. I don't know whether that's right, by the way, but 20% discount.
I always wanted to work for Rebel's shoe shop.
Come on, Peter.
This is my big chance.
Right, I'm interested.
How are you doing?
Yeah, fine.
Good.
I want to buy a pair of these. That's my sign.
These shoes?
Yeah.
These boots?
That's right.
They're quite unique in a sense. They're
No,
one of a new range.
I definitely want to buy them.
Yeah.
But I just
Are you
want to
married?
Yes.
Oh, what do you want them for?
Well, I'm for my knock around the garden.
And do you knock around the garden with your wife? Calm down.
My wife and I do gardening. My wife and I go gardening, yeah.
You know when she goes out
Yeah.
and she comes back, she says, I got some bargains today.
Yeah.
And she saved you 70 quid on a £450 dress.
Yeah.
You know how you feel then?
God,
This
yeah.
is your chance to get her back. Because these actually are 28, forget the 28 quid it says on the label.
All right.
Because 28 quid.
24 on the label.
Or 20, all right then.
Okay.
24. You can actually buy yourself
Yeah.
and your wife.
Yeah.
So you both got knocking about in shoes for the garden for £10 each. That's less than the price of one.
Okay.
You interested?
Yeah.
Shall I wrap them up?
No.
All right.
Sit down. Okay, so that's not the answer I'm looking for, but I don't eat them. Okay. So anybody else want to have a go? No? Let's move on, because otherwise I'll come back to that later. So just to some definitions, just so that you understand where I'm coming from. Again, this plays into the type of person you want to sell. The type of person you want to be adopt some sort of element, sales excellence in your business, selling your, is not the same person you want to do business development, not the same person you want to do marketing. Now, in small companies, you have to accept that maybe you have to have one person that do all those things. But from a profile in a person point of view and the characters you're looking for, a salesperson is a different animal to a business development person as opposed to a marketing person. Different roles. I'm going to read the slides, but they are different roles. If you read the definition, I think it speaks of different people with different skill sets. For example, in business development, often it's someone with a technical background or a high product knowledge. The sales guy needs product knowledge, but he doesn't need it to the extent that a business development person might need it, because he's looking to extend that product into new markets. So the bottom line is we're all salespeople. We are. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, when I was doing it, I'm an engineer by background, and when I went into a sales role, I was dreading telling my father, because his view of a salesperson was like, not good. And, you know, when you think about it, we are actually all selling in our lives. I got 2 kids. I'm trying to sell to them every day. You know, this is a better way to live than the way they're living, for example. Doctors, social workers, politicians, we're all doing it. What's interesting, even something that's free and obvious is sometimes difficult to sell. I mean, for example, if you're overweight, you go see the doctor and he says, your lifespan is going to be reduced by X number of years if you don't. People still go away and don't exercise. So selling it of itself, the product isn't enough. You've got to find the words and the connect with that person or that organization to be successful. It's a process. It is definitely a process. You know, it starts with prospecting. Who am I going to sell to? I can't sell to everybody, but I need to identify a certain type of company or individual that I want to go and sell to. You have to qualify. You have to identify their propensity to buy from you, what you have to sell, or buy from your competition, or buy nothing at all. Understand their requirements, so on and so forth. The key point of this slide, though, is almost anything that you're selling will go through this process. Well, you may skip a number of stages. If you're selling a commodity, you certainly will. But generally, that's the process you will go through. You may not recognize it. You might not be cognizant of that's what you're doing, but that's what happens in selling. The key thing up on the top right-hand side is the variables are the cost of doing this. And there is a cost. And I sometimes come across businesses that the cost of what they're selling is more than what they're selling. And it's like, why are you doing that? Well, it's because they haven't stopped and thought about the cost of what they're doing. Your influence and control over the process. The worst thing in selling is have the customer dictate to you and drive the process. It's really stressful. You can't control everything that you'd like to, but you have to have some element of control and influence over what goes on. And the time it takes. For some people, they can go through that process within a week. In businesses I've been involved in, it can take a year, sometimes not longer. So it depends what it is. And in businesses I've been involved in, I'm sure Peter likewise, understanding the requirement can take the biggest chunk of time because you're consulting with the customer to figure out what their problems are, because they may not have defined them yet in enough detail for you to be able to respond with a proposal. So sometimes you spend a lot of time at that stage. Sometimes the customer has to fund it because you're actually adding value without any real certainty that they'll buy off you. They might buy from your customer. So that's kind of the process. And there are loads of different ways to sell. You know, if you look at the box in the middle, conceptual selling is very different to selling a commodity, to features and benefits type selling. If I was selling this as a feature and benefit sale, you know, it's got, like, what do they call it? Velcro, some have got. So you'd be selling the benefits of the like, you know, and you'd be saying that's, you know, in this situation, this is why you'd buy this boot. So you're trying to say this is the feature and the benefit of that feature. And then there's new market selling. You've got something that's never been done before. There's no market identified for what you have. So you're going out and creating a market. That's really, really tough. And of course, there's lots of different routes to market. So you can go direct. You've got you or your sales force go out there and find customers. But there's lots of other different routes to market. And I've worked with a number of businesses that have had a direct sales force. And when you look at the market they're trying to address and the product, it doesn't make any sense to do that. And so they're struggling as a business, not because they don't have something that people are interested in. They've adopted an inappropriate route to market, which is not being successful in terms of converting customers. And one company I was working with, they had a direct sales force selling, but the real model they should have been adopting was a franchise model. So it's so different. And yet they were pursuing a direct sales model. So there's many routes to market, and to make sure that you adopt, or you should think long and hard about, are you adopting the most appropriate route or routes to your market? Because the choice is critical to your success. If you get this wrong, obviously the execution has to be good as well, but the choice of route to market is really, really important. It is a cost driver. You know, it impacts enormously the cost to you as a business. It impacts how competitive you are in terms of your sales revenue. It can change. In software, my history's been in software. Once the software becomes a commodity, you probably need to switch to an indirect model from a direct model, or a combination of both. That's usually the kind of thing that happens in software. And switching can be highly risky and costly, and obviously impact the business performance. And there's lots of low-cost sales channels now that we're all aware of. The web obviously is one. So there are emerging channels as well, which you really need to start, think about as to whether that's appropriate for you. And the methodology that you adopt with your route to market is obviously another key thing. So if you've identified the appropriate route to market, you need to make sure you have a methodology of executing that route to market. So if you've got a commodity product, then that's very different to having a technology product. So think where you are. Are you at the commodity end or are you at the technology end? Is it a tangible thing that you sell, or is it something that's intangible? They're the kind of two ends of the spectrum. Are you selling to the individual or to the corporate? Is it a low cost or a high cost product that you're selling or service? Is it consumable or is it an asset? Replacement or new capability? Is it something that people are already doing this, I'm just coming along with something that's better? So I think someone mentioned earlier the Dyson vacuum cleaner. We all accept that vacuum cleaners work. We need them in our lives. So someone coming with something that's better or cheaper, that's fine. We get it. But if it's something that's a new capability, well, I've never done this before. Why do I need this damn thing? I get along fine without it. So why do I need it? That's a different way to go to market, a different way to sell. And whether you have something that's completely unique, or it's in a very intensely competitive market. And again, that brings a different dynamic. Or you're in a stable, so they are the kind of variables, if you like. So if you plot where you are going down that list, that should very strongly indicate to you, what route to market you should adopt and what approach you should take to your selling activity. Because there's different ways to sell. Maybe? I think, for me, I think there is a time and place to do that. But what's more important is if you do get in front of someone, you've got something interesting to say. If you waste their time, then yeah, I'd be annoyed with that as well. But if you've got something really important to tell them, then it could be the best few minutes of their day. I just want to touch on the cultural aspects of selling, if you like. And there is stark contrast between the UK sales culture, or lack of it, maybe, than the US. And just to illustrate, last time I was in the US, because I've worked for US companies a number of times, I ordered a wake-up call at 6:30 or something, and I picked the phone up and it rang. And I was expecting the receptionist to say, "Hi, Mr. May, you're awake." It was a recorded message of someone trying to sell me a car. So it just goes to show the lengths they'll go to. They think, well, I got this guy on the phone, right? And I'm thinking, I don't believe that. I went into the bathroom, and you can switch the TV on, it comes, so you're having a shave and you've got an ad in front of you. So every single minute, second of the day, they can sell to you, they will. And it can be irritating, and it is very irritating for British people, but that's the culture. And they're the companies that maybe some of you are competing with. American companies with that sales mentality that they'll go the extra mile, big time, to try and win that sale, get in front of that customer. It is, I think, a missing piece of the business support jigsaw in Wales. I think the Welsh government and the environment we're in now, I think, provides a lot of assistance, right, to startups. But when it comes to the soft skills, the time when you've got this product, you want to enter the market, in some cases you do need a lot of help in how to get to market. And that help isn't there, I don't think. It is a low professional status. I did tell my dad in the end, and he was delighted, I might say. But and business, I hate this thing about marketing. People talk about marketing and business development. No, it's selling. Don't talk about, they fluff it up, Is it selling, or is it marketing, or is it business development? Because they're different. And in a survey, a little research project I did 2 years ago, it was identified as a key barrier to some companies' growth, certain companies' growth. There's a market out there, it's huge. I think I've got what the market wants, but I'm not getting the traction. I'm not getting the growth in sales. I think there's a lot we could do for Welsh business in that regard. So what are the common challenges? Who do I sell to? Do you ever stop and think, who is it I want to sell to? Not who rings me up and shows an interest in what I do. Who is it I want to sell to? And who do I not want to sell to? And you should ask that question. I don't want to sell to anybody that's interested. I don't want to sell to anybody. I want to develop the right kind of opportunities with the right customers, which I know will give my business some momentum going forward. Why should they buy from us? And really stop and think hard about that. I think Terry Matthews mentioned earlier. Why the hell would they buy this thing? Does it give them anything that they haven't already got? Does it do what they already do better, cheaper, faster, whatever? How do we compare to the competition? How to engage with the customers? So a whole range of questions that you need really to ask yourself and have an honest conversation with yourself about. Because this will inform a lot about what you need to do or what you need to change about your sales approach to the market. And how important is trust and how do you build it? It's really, you know, most businesses, it is really important, you know. And there's a whole raft of things we could talk about there to try and build that trust. The product is important, but it's not just the product. As Peter said, it's about the whole organization. So moving on rapidly. So here's where it kind of tries to bring things together. So sales methodologies in terms of selling business to business. Generically, there's the direct. My company is going to sell what we have to the market. And then there's the indirect. I'm going to get someone to sell on my behalf. And in a lot of companies, they do both. And it's fine to do both. But, you know, in a small business, maybe you can just do one well. It's unlikely you can do both well unless you've got the resource. And you need to think, am I doing the right one? Should I be doing this direct or should I be doing it indirect? If you're selling a high value, a long sales cycle, high cost of sale, highly competitive and high switching, if you're in that market, then you're probably going to approach your selling process around the strategic selling, which is you're going to have to consult with the customer. You have to get close to them. You're going to have to really try and understand their business. Because until you do, they wouldn't buy from you, and you don't know what to sell them. And that's kind of a ROI-based, you know, it's probably an investment for them. It has high business impact. So some of the technology infrastructures that companies build their business on, that has high impact. If you get that right, it can accelerate their growth. If you get it wrong, then it could kill the company. And so trust and track record and all those things are important. And you probably have to approach the executives of that company initially and then work with their middle management and people lower down the organization. You're probably going to have customers where you've done it before. You know, this is a big risk for you, Mr. Customer. It's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to have to build an ROI for this, and it's going to have an impact on your company should it be successful and not if it fails. So you need references, really. Someone who you've done it before. If you're a market leader, that's great. The IBM classic, no one ever got fired for buying from IBM. IBM's crap. I spent 2 years there, hated the place. But that's me. And then you get down to the long to medium sales cycle where you're talking about tens of thousands of pounds. Whatever you're selling, it's in the thousands rather than the millions, because at the other end, it tends to be the millions. And it's a features and benefits. Yeah, it might be consultative. And the thing that often drives a decision is it's the best technical solution. So it's often a technical sale. It has medium to low business impact, and it's end user focused. So, and you know, that's kind of a features and benefits type of approach. And then you're into the relationship side of things where, you know, you're selling the commodity. It's all about your relationship with the buyer. Low value, short sales cycles, high frequency, and the switching cost for the customer is easy. You know, I'm going to buy this thing from you, these from you. I'll go and buy it from Peter. No problem. So you're relying on, I know this guy, he knows me, I take him around the pub every now and again or whatever. It's that kind of emotional attachment he has to you that's important. I won't dwell too much on this because we're going to run out of time. So going back to some of the food for thought things then. So I've got prizes here. So can someone tell me what is a desirable quality of a salesperson? I'm thinking of the person. I might be a rubbish salesman, but I could acquire product knowledge, right? The qualities of the individual? I can be enthusiastic. Yeah. What? Yes, I like it. That's a good one. Any more? Tenacity, who said that? You got kids? No. Pardon? Passion. Thick-skinned. I'm running out of prizes.
Being a great listener. Being a great listener.
Good listener, yeah. Good listener. So empathy, I think, for me personally, and this is obviously a debating point, but empathy, I think, is, if not the number one, probably close, the number one probably for me.
I'd say, and don't set expectations in the wrong place.
Yeah.
That's key. Because you can screw it up very quickly.
Yeah.
So always keep expectations. Absolutely.
Did anybody say drive or tenacity? Drive, tenacity? Yeah, definitely. Yeah. 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 So, yeah, empathy, drive, what else did you say? What is it? Good communicator. Communication. It is all about communication. Yeah, yeah. But a good salesman, you don't feel like you're buying off him, do you, right? A good salesman, you always feel like he's solving a problem for you, rather than selling you something. Okay, define the core sales role in 2 words. We just described the qualities of a top salesperson, or what is it that person does? No, that's the outcome. Getting orders is an outcome. It's not the core. Pardon? Makes connections. Builds relationships. Facilitator. Helping the customer. Grows. Yeah. Solves a problem. Okay, my definition is influences events. You're an influencer. That's what you are. If you're a top salesperson, you influence events. And those events relate to the role, which is to get the customer in a situation where he's making a decision to buy from you as opposed to somebody else. So influence an event. All the time, the salesperson's doing his job, he needs to be influencing. Not just a bystander, reacting to situations, but influencing events. When does a sales cycle start? 2 criteria. I'm not going to ask you, Peter. Product development stage? Well, I'm assuming you have a product to sell, and you know there's a market that... Okay, how many in this room have had people waste their time? You've spent a lot of time with someone and they didn't buy anything. Yeah? So you felt that you're in a process of selling something to somebody, but they didn't buy. So you've obviously not recognized the situation where the sales cycle has started. That's not to say you shouldn't spend time with people before, but you need to make a note. Now, I'm in a sales opportunity, and therefore this is a priority. Because people give priorities to things that don't produce a result. And that's wasteful. No one can afford to do that, least of all small businesses. Right. Okay. That's one of them. Well, it's half the story. You've identified a need that you can satisfy the need. So it's a need. You've identified a need or a pain or a requirement with the customer that your company, your service can actually address. Because you can identify lots of needs, the customer, but Well, that's then the process of trying to find out who's going to make this decision. But I've identified this company has got a need that we can actually address. And what's the second one? Second one? What's that got? No, that's not. One more thing. No, there's one more thing. Come on, guys. I'm asking for the obvious. Maybe it's too obvious. That they've got enough funds, or they're able to access enough funds to purchase what you've got. Because they say, oh, I love a Rolls Royce. I've got a need for a car, but no, I can't afford one. Well, I'll have to go and buy something else. So they're the two things. Without the two of those things, you're not in a sales cycle. If you say to you, look, I've got a need, this will satisfy it, but I've got no prospect of ever getting the money to afford to buy your stuff, then it's not a sales opportunity. They might be willing to talk to you and enjoy the company, but it's not a sales opportunity. Okay, the footwear product then. Anybody want to step up and have a go at this? We've got 10 minutes and we've got a few other things to cover. Do you want another go? Now, looking for the highest impact way of presenting that proposition. Anybody want to go? Come on, there's two. You can have the boots if you come up. Come on. Who wants to? Who wants?
Do you think it's possible to you to sell something you don't really like it?
Come to the United States, right? They do that all the time. 24 hours on TV.
Come on, who wants 2 pairs of boots? Right, come on then. All right, you better come up with the right answer now, otherwise I wish. It don't matter. Right, I'm interested in buying a pair of these boots.
These boots?
Yeah.
Right. These boots usually retail for £24.
That's right, yeah.
Today, not only are they reduced to 20, you can actually get 2 pairs for 20, but for today only.
What do you reckon? Did you feel you were compelled to buy those boots?
You've got to say yes.
Is that the strongest proposition you can give? Right, let me reverse it, right? I'm going to sell you these, right?
Yeah.
Like these boots, you decide you want to buy a pair, right? Now, their normal retail price is £24. We're going to sell you this pair for £12, which is 50% or half the normal retail price. I'm going to allow you to buy a second pair for £8, which is a third of the retail price. You want to buy both?
Yes.
Go on then. So the point there was, I don't know whether it come across that well, but the point is, don't place an onus on the customer to process the numbers, right? So I'm going to get one for half the retail price, £12, and the second pair I can get for £8. So that is a stronger proposition than say you can get 2 for £20. So you get the first for £12, which gives you the opportunity to buy the second for £8, which is a lot less than 24. So it's a higher impact way of presenting that proposition. And by the way, Steve will know this. Myself and another neighbour of mine, we actually did this at a show. He's got a footwear business. He wouldn't be happy. Don't let him see those, will you? So who would be good at selling? Drive, focus, empathy, good communicator, adds value to the process. The customer sees him as being, it's better that this guy's selling me this than not, he's adding value to what he's doing. He seeks to be a valuable contributor to the process. So persistent, goal set, outstanding, question listening skills, passionate, enthusiasm, all those things. You'll never find anybody with all those qualities, but you need to get someone somewhere close to that. Otherwise, you're probably going to waste a lot of money and get very little in return. So in terms of best practice, decide on what the most appropriate routes to market are. Reevaluate what your current routes to market are, because it may be that things have changed and you haven't identified that change, and you might need to change the way you go to market. Keep it simple. It shouldn't be complex. I think someone said earlier, sometimes a simple thing can unleash, taking a complex and make it simpler can unleash a lot of resource and talent. And I think Terry said this, I'm glad to say, get engaged early with a customer. I haven't completed this damn thing yet. In concept, this is what it is, and here's a kind of a prototype. What do you think? Get some customer feedback. Get engaged early. If you wait until it's complete, the chances are the customer is going to say, well, I like it, but if you did this and this, it would be better, and I might buy it then. Well, you've invested that time and resource. Listen to your customers and don't assume anything. I'm a great believer in defining your ideal profile. Who is it? In my wildest dreams, with what I've got, who would I like to buy this? If I could get them as a customer. And what does it say about that company? Profile them. Is it size, location, whatever it might be? Define your ideal customer, because if you can find enough of them, then you're going to have a much easier task in selling to those. Don't just sell to whoever rings up and shows an interest. In fact, you need to say no a lot more than probably you do. Set an activity model. This is not rocket science. You should be able to define, if I do these things, these range of things that relate to my selling my products and services, if I do these things, and I do them in this if I devote this amount of time to doing those things, I'm bound to be successful. Then the variable then is the execution and being good at those things. So, for example, in a sales team that I've run, I've said to them, you need to be meeting with customers 3 days a week. You need to meet, on average, with 10 customers a week. You also, of those 10 customers, some will be existing customers, but a proportion of them need to be new prospects. And that might be 8-2 or 5-5, because based on experience, you have to be doing that and do that consistently. Then you'll get the success that you want. So it's define the customers you want to focus on, define the activity you need to actually achieve that level of revenue or growth. And it's a numbers game. If you talk to 10 people, 3 might be interested, 1 might buy. And I'm a great advocate of top-down selling. I mean, you have to sell to different people in the organization, but the best place to start is at the top. Define what your new businesses are. I think Bruce Dickinson said that this morning. You should forecast. You should forecast revenues, what your profit margins are going to be, and your payment record. How quickly do people pay? You can manage that. You can forecast that. And I'm a great believer in continuously training as well. I think selling is, maybe other roles in business, is a bit like sport. Wayne Rooney still has to get out on the training pitch every day or whatever they do with the rest of them, even though he is the best player. No matter how good you are at this, you can easily fall into bad habits. So practicing and honing skills. And communication is massive now. It's an even bigger issue than it used to be because there's so many different modes now. And picking the most appropriate mode to communicate in, again, that's something I see happening a lot. People doing it in the wrong way, using the wrong mode of communication. Using email when they should be picking up the phone is a classic example. So moving on, here's a forecast model, because I suspect a lot of you don't forecast. That's my experience. This model, it looks simple, and it is simple, but it actually is more complex than it looks. But the good thing about it is it's simple enough and effective enough that salespeople will use it. So, as I said earlier, what are the 2 ways, when a sales cycle starts? On the left-hand side is the selling status. Where am I with the customer in selling this thing to them? And the process, because there's a 4-stage process. There's qualifying, evaluating, it's being selected, and closing. On the right-hand side is funding. Budget possible, but the customer hasn't requested a budget yet. That's good information. So when's the earliest he might get a budget submitted and approved? Budget requested but under consideration. It's with the FD or with the management team, they're deciding. Approved but not released. They've said you can have the budget, but we've just missed our sales forecast. Therefore, from a cash flow point of view, we don't want to see this money going out of the business for 3 or 4 months. And then obviously they have the budget available to spend. So, and then on the matrix, it gives you an indication of the probability. So the probability, if I'm 4 at a selling status and 4 at a budget status, then it's 90% probability this is going to happen within a month. And these numbers will change depending on your business. This is a really powerful forecast model, and I would encourage you to use it if you want. I'll send it to you. But it's really powerful. It really works. I mean, I've run a sales team of 24 with this, and my forecasting was spot on. So just to last one slide. These are the things recommended reading. These are the things that I've read, that I've taken a lot of this from over my career. Solution selling, strategic selling. If you're in a technology space, Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore is an old book, but it's still relevant. I think Julie this morning mentioned another book, but I suspect it does the same, covers the same stuff, but that was the original. And if you're selling to large corporates, there's a book called The Power to Get In. Really, really powerful book. really, really powerful. It gives you fantastic methods to get to speak to senior execs in large corporates. So that's been a bit of a speedy conclusion. So in summary, the definition of selling, hopefully I covered that. Selling is a process. Some of the things that we don't do as well as other parts of the world. Well, we are all salespeople, so we probably need to develop our sales skills. The importance of matching process and the methodology, the kind of things that make a good salesperson, and some of the kind of best practice. So, any questions? We've got a few minutes. Well, 1 minute actually. Yes, Jerry. Oh, I didn't cover that, did I? Sorry. I didn't mean to skip over that. Well spotted. Anybody want to hazard a guess what that might be? So one of your sales team, or well, you've gone to meet a customer. What would I ask you, having met with that customer, that would tell me almost all I need to know? In part. No. It could be the first meeting with the customer. It needn't be the last. That's kind of half of it. Yes, and yeah. What did you agree with the customer? That's the only thing that matters. You know, you can give me all the waffle, but what at the end of that meeting do you agree with the customer? And that should be a two-way agreement. I'm going to do something for him, he's going to do something for me. If you tell me, well, I agreed that I go off and do this, and this, but the customer agreed to do nothing, then that's not a good meeting. That's a poor meeting. So because you're always looking for commitment throughout the whole sales cycle, and you want the customer to do things for you. You don't mind doing stuff for the customer, and those things have to be reciprocal and of, equal commitment, if you like.